Hi, I'm Chris Harford with iTrees.com, and I had a good opportunity today to come out to the nursery and talk a little bit about quality and why it's important to grow or to get locally grown, large caliber, big high quality trees. And I'm out here in the field today with Becky Thomas, and she is the owner of one of my supplier nurseries, Spring Grove Nursery, and her pest and disease consultant, which is Bill McAdams of McAdams Consulting. And I just thought maybe we could have kind of a quick conversation on why quality matters. What do you think, Bill?
Well, it's really important to get a tree that has a well-developed root system, a well-developed top structure, and has the time that you had a root system that had developed. So what you want, I think it's important to understand the work that Becky takes in order to grow a tree from a liner stage into a market stage.
Yeah, we start with trees here that are probably in the 6 to 8 foot branched size, and they're maybe a ½ inch to 1 inch in caliper. And when we bring those in and plant them out here in the nursery, we have to take a lot of precaution, and we've gone over a lot of that with you before too, about making sure that the roots are at the proper depth when they're planted in the nursery in the spring, right off the bat, because that's the first time that that tree is getting planted. And then when we grow it on here in the nursery, we grow through several years where we go out and do leader work and structural pruning to that tree, and then we can end up with a beautiful tree several years later. This is a red maple that is about 3 inch in caliper, and I think Bill would agree we've done a good job on this one. It has a nice leader and a nice top to it. And then we will dig that tree and give it to Chris, who will be taking it and planting it in your yard.
So what's the big difference between maybe a smaller tree? Lots of people have questions. Should I go with the bigger tree? Should I go with the smaller tree? Is it real important to plant the bigger size, you know, the 2 to 4 inch B&B trees? Why is that so beneficial?
It's extremely important during the different stages of a tree development in a nursery. Each year is extremely valuable, especially the first year. They get the liner, they trim the upper branches of the liner, and they get a proper structure established. They trim the root system, they view the root system to make sure that it's not root strangulated or J-rooted, where all the roots are skewed over to one side. They make sure that they have a balanced root system. So all this stuff is gone over by a professional nursery grower in the beginning. They plant it in the ground, then they develop the top structure, then they cultivate it, in which they create aeration so it allows for proper root growth. And then as the years go by, they continue to develop the top structure and the root structure. And by the time they sell it, you have a healthy tree that has a really high chance of surviving. The difference being, people will get this smaller tree, the more inexpensive tree, from like a discount store, and the tree may be fine, but the problem is that tree is a liner in a container, and that's all it is. It's a liner that they received the first year. It's in a container. You don't know who looked at those root systems. You don't know really what you're getting beneath that ground. And so then people get that tree and they plant that tree, and they don't understand that they have to trim those tops and create that upper branch structure. So the tree grows for a few years, and many times, if they're planted especially in the wrong type of soil conditions, these type of trees can fail. So it's really important in my mind, and by watching and dealing with insect and diseases and failing trees over my many years of working with nurseries, it's really important to get a quality type tree. And it's, my estimation, really worth paying the extra money, getting a valuable tree like this 3 inch tree, because then you've got a tree and you know that you have a root structure and you have the upper branch structure, which is important for preventing wind damage, snow damage, and icing damage. So, you know, again, you can look at my website at www.McAdamsConsulting.com, where I show the importance of quality and trees.
So just Becky, on your end, since all of our customers are kind of in this area, you're a local nursery, how important is, and maybe you can weigh in because I know you have a big territory you cover, how important is it to get a tree that's grown locally versus a tree, you know, that comes up from the south? I mean, is it really important that you know where your tree is coming from?
Absolutely. And we're here in the Midwest, we're in Illinois, And so the trees that you get from our nursery were grown here right in the vicinity of where they're going to be planted. Trees that are brought in from other areas of the country were exactly that. They were grown in different areas of the country. So they might not be exactly suited to the climate that tree's going to endure.
A lot of these trees that you're receiving from these professional suppliers also understand the ranges, the growth ranges, and the different, like we're in zone 5.
Correct.
And up north it's zone 4. So they have trees that they know have been suited for a zone 5 planting and survivorship, versus trying to buy a tree that's more suited for the south of zone 6. It looks nice, you bring it up here, but the problem is winter. We have temperatures that, you get an early spring or early freeze in the fall, and you get that freeze thaw, and it causes a crack on a lot of these more southern trees that aren't suited to our more northern climate.
Right.
And then it gets secondary canker organisms moving behind, and so it's a nightmare if you get the wrong trees that aren't adapted for your growth in your local area. So I think that's why it's really important to deal with professionals with nurseries, because they're going to understand what zone your tree should be in order to survive, and when they buy it, they're getting them from professionals that also know what should be grown in your area.
Yeah,
and
we know the seed source.
Some of these other suppliers don't do that.
Yeah, I think
you have to be careful.
I think it's one thing that's really important to note is there is big quality differences in trees, at whatever size you get them at. And it's important to know when you're buying from a high quality company like mine, or coming from a high quality nursery like yours, you know that you're getting a tree that's been taken care of, that's been, the roots are properly developed, the heads are properly developed. People like you have come in and made sure that the trees are healthy and not having disease and pest problems. That's a big one. And the trees kind of have to go through a bunch of different stages of different businesses and different professionals to make sure that you're going to end up with a healthy tree. One thing people don't understand is that when you end up with an unhealthy tree and you get it planted, the costs associated with that down the road can be well more than the difference in what you would have paid just to buy a nice locally grown healthy tree. Have you seen a lot of that, or had a lot of experience with that kind of thing?
Yeah, we'll get a lot of people that in our area that'll have mature trees, and then they'll come in and ask us questions, and lots of times I'll even pass some of those questions on to Bill if I'm not sure on the answer. But most often it's a tree that's older, and you can tell that somewhere along the line something didn't happen right in that process, and now that person's going to have a lot of expense on their end, either trying to treat that tree or trying to maybe have an arborist come in and try to fix pruning on the tree, when they really could have just started better from the start. Another big thing that we notice, and I know we've talked about it, Bill, is trees being planted at the wrong height after they leave our nursery. Yeah. So I'm going to dig this tree up, and it's going to be bald and burlapped. Well, if the contractor that's coming to plant that tree in your yard plants that tree way too deep, you're not going to see anything happen to that tree right off the bat. It's going to be, maybe 5 years down the road or so?
It could be shorter than that, because I see that's a very common mistake, and it's a very big problem, is that people will do it yourself. They have a limited knowledge on plants and planting and plant growth, and they get a tree and they have this misconception that you have to bury the tree into the soil, where the roots need air. And when you plant a tree, you want to plant it where the root ball is at least level with the new ground that you're putting it in, possibly an inch higher. Or if you're in a bad soil that isn't very conducive for those root systems, maybe you may consider constructing a soil berm that would have the soil structure that would allow for drainage drainage on the root systems in the tree so they can survive better. But it's really important to understand where you're putting a tree, and if you have a quality tree. What I see on my end is I go onto sites and they'll ask me what problems, insect and diseases they have when I go onto some of these homeowner sites and that, and they've been planted in the wrong place, they haven't been maintained right, and then they have all this, they're getting all this fertilization, they're getting all this treatments that they need for insect and disease, where most of that could have been avoided had they got a good quality tree to begin with, put it into a suitable site for growth to begin with, and the tree wouldn't need that maintenance, and it greatly reduces the cost of a lot of the maintenance that you would need from like a tree care company. And not saying that that's bad, it's sometimes that's needed, but there's a lot of times that could be avoided if they just got the right tree, a good quality tree, planted it in the right location, and you know, that was maintained by a professional grower, or you know, grown by a professional grower, and maybe maintained by a landscaper.
Well, yeah, quality is very important to us at iTrees.com. We only work with nurseries that are the highest quality. You know, Becky's done a great job at providing us with a great amount of trees, and we'd be happy to have you around to come take a look at some of them. If you just want to, what was your website again, Bill, if anybody was interested in getting in contact with you?
It's at www.McAdamsConsulting.com. I specialize with insect and disease problems, landscape trees. I also do site evaluations where I come in and I look at sites, I identify the insect and disease problems and recommend methods of control or prevention.
And then Becky here, I know your website is www.springgrovenursery.com. And mine, of course, is iTrees.com. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll throw some links up on the blog to these guys' websites. And yeah, feel free to give me a call if you have any questions. Thanks.